welcome to Beyond Transcendence with Andrew. I'm your host, Andrew Wilson. On today's show, I have Elizabeth Eleanor. Elizabeth has had two major life-threatening health experiences. One 15-centimeter fibroid that she released by herself. The other a 4.5-centimeter brain tumor that she had surgically removed and had many magical experiences through the process. Discovering the secrets of alchemy, she merged this knowledge with 25 years of being a healer to create the Ascendance Code and energetically align with her higher self wisdom. Please welcome Elizabeth Eleanor. Welcome to my show, Elizabeth.
It's been so cool to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
So tell me about your spiritual journey and what brought you to spirituality.
Well, it wasn't one of those things that I planned on, actually. I've been spiritual, I think we're all spiritual, right? Like, of course we are. We just don't know it. When I was younger, I was, brought up in a family that wasn't religious, but my auntie was. And so we didn't really have a lot of talk about it. But I grew up in a family with my dad being sick on a kidney machine. And I used to lay with him of a night time while he was on the machine, every so often just crying, I don't want you to die. And he would be like, I'm not going to die, I'm not going to die. Well, when I was 15, he passed away. And they came to me at school and opened the door and, walked in. And I just knew. I started packing my bag and, for some reason, I just knew. Went on a big bender after that, from 15 onwards for about 10 years, totally numbing myself in grief. I didn't realize that's what was going on at the time, that it was grief. But, met a guy from school and off we went. And don't remember much of that time other than, being very suppressed in a very emotionally abusive relationship. And then I had kids and woke up, like it's nothing like having someone else to look after to sort of smack you over the head and go, there's more to your life than this. So fast forward and I moved to Far North Queensland and this woman starts hassling me about, you got to go and see this psychic. She's really amazing and you get to speak to your dad. And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe in psychics. They're charlatans, like they just want your money and all that sort of stuff. But she just kept on and on and on. And I finally went to this woman just to shut her up and walk in. And she's like, what are you doing here? You can do what I do. And I thought, oh, this is her way of trying to get my money. Started talking to me and my dad shows up and I'm writing this, information down. And I feel this touch on my face. And I look up and she said, did you feel that? I'm like, yeah, what was that? And she said, that's your dad. He wants you to really listen to what I'm saying, what he's saying. And that was my first, spiritual touch. Well, I go home and 2 or 3 days of being, touched and there's no one there and freaking out. And so I ring her up, like, what's going on, And she said, it's okay. They're just happy that you've woken up and it'll settle down. And so I wanted to book in again. And she said, no. I was like, what? I thought that she was a charlatan. She wanted my money. And it was the best thing that she could do for me because I then had to journey and find my own way. I went to a meditation circle. Like, where do you go, right? Like when you've got no one in your life that's got any concept of spirituality and this happens to you. So found a little spiritual center in the local community and went to a meditation thing, met this guy and he introduced me to this workshop and went into the workshop and this woman said, I've been waiting for you. And I literally blank slate. I think it had been a couple of months maybe of waking up and found myself in a group doing past life regression training for 7 years, really intense. So it sort of happened to me more than me searching for it. So it was a very interesting start to my journey.
Wow, that's empowering, so powerful.
Mm.
What was it like to hear that you have that kind of power, that kind of ability?
I didn't believe it. Didn't believe it, didn't believe in any of it. I'm just little old Elizabeth, like who'd grown up in Blacktown. If anyone's from Australia and New South Wales, you know that Blacktown's not the place to be if you're spiritual. It's like the ghetto in America. So, very, very humble beginnings, and didn't believe in myself at all. And going through the process with Rhonda, my first mentor, that she was my teacher in doing the past life regressions, and eventually I started facilitating as well. And still just didn't believe in any of it. Like having experiences, like I remember one of the first past lives I had that really made a difference. I was a bum on the street, shoes dirty, holes in my shoes, like scattered hair, my hair was all dirty and dreaded, and I was just about to kill myself. It was like, I'm done with this world. And Rhonda asked, what got you to here? And I go back in time to being about 7 years old, and I'm in this big crowd trying to explain to everyone that, everything's love, and all we need to do is share the light and blah, 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 and no one's listening to me. So she comes in her light body in the crowd and says, this kid's got something to share. Everyone listens. So they stop and they listen to me. So then she takes me back to, now that this has shifted, what's your life like in the future? And I go back and I'm in a suit. I'm walking down the street and people are looking at me with respect. But I physically, while I'm laying there on this couch, the first thing was like, oh my gosh, my hair is clean and short. I could literally feel it on my head. And so that was my first experience of something shifting energetically and physically. But I still went through this process of not believing in any of it. So it wasn't until, and I was just sharing this with you before we started, it wasn't until like I had this experience where I did a regression on a young kid on the other side of the suburb. I was living in a beach suburb, and it went a bit wrong because the sort of started jumping from one life to the other. And I was working with Archangel Michael at the time, and he's like, it's all good, it's all good. Anyway, I come home and I get a phone call, got kids in the bath, making dinner, everything going okay. Hours later, his mum rings me up and says, could we have stuffed up? He said, that's not my kid. He doesn't sound the same. He won't look me in the eye. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the army guy. He was in one of the sessions in one of the lives. He was this army guy who was just about to jump off a cliff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's come back as the army guy. And she says to me, I don't know what you're going to do, because now he thinks you're a witch, because he's about 14, right? Now he thinks you're a witch, and there's no way he's going to let you work on him again. So I went, okay, it's all good. I'll sort it out and I'll get back to you. So put the phone down, make sure the kids aren't, turn off the oven, make sure the kids aren't drowning, race into my bedroom, call out to Michael like, holy shit, help me, And he said, it's okay, just go over in your light body and send him to the light. So I did that, saw this other stuff and cleared it. One of the reasons why he came to me in the first place was because at 14 he wouldn't go to bed in his own bed, because when he closed his eyes he saw eyes behind his eyes, and it scared him. So here he was, mum's single mum, and he's still sleeping in her bed because of this. And so I cleared this army guy, and next thing I see, there was about 4 or 5 people there, and I cleared them as well. Get the kids out of the bath, go and have dinner. Takes a while before I ring her back, and she tells me exactly when I did it. She said, I saw him come back into his body. He said goodnight to me and he's gone to bed in his own bed. And from that moment on, he slept in his own bed. And I put the phone down and went, oh my God, I think I'm a witch. It just freaked me out, right? So as I was saying to you, I went up to the Daintree, was visiting some friends, but I was on the side of the road in there's no lights anywhere, so the stars are just crazy. And at the time, I call myself Liz, and I could differentiate between them talking to me in my head because they would call me Elizabeth. And so I'm laying on top of my car and I'm like, I need a sign that I'm working for the right side. Like, who am I working for? I had grown up with, God and the devil, and like, I'm like, this is all getting a bit too much, guys, And so I'm laying on the car and I get, who you're working for, Elizabeth. And I slammed my hand on the car roof and went, God damn it, I want a sign like in the movies or I'm not going any further. And I'd been there maybe 5 or 10 minutes and looking at all these thousands of stars. And just as I said that, I got 3 shooting stars and nothing afterwards. And I just went, okay, now I know I'm got validation and confirmation. I'm going to keep going. And now I can acknowledge that little girl that's on the side of the road that I pretend is a signpost. Now I can do this and now I can do that. And I just went on from there.
Nice. Yeah, no, it's amazing, hey, when you get into spirituality. I know, like, when I lost my mother, I was struggling for a long time and I was working at a job that was you were making really good money, but you were treated so poorly and everyone there was just so miserable and you could like feel it. And after you leave work, you take it home with you and it's like you're completely drained and there was nothing left. And I had to leave and it was thankful. I'm so grateful that my mother was so kind to leave me an inheritance so I could quit my job and start this podcast and get to like meet so many wonderful people. And at the time too, now I started writing a book about my trauma. So it's like, it's just, you get so creative when you step outside of your box. And that's the one thing I'm noticing when you step outside of your comfort zone and you try something new. Yeah, you might not succeed, but at least you tried. And this failure is only going to lead to something better. It's like door after door will open, and it's neat because I started the podcast. I met a fella from Sweden. Then that fella from Sweden introduced me to a community. Now I have a life coach because of that. It's just amazing how life just kind of puts you into certain ways when you stop like watching television, you stop following the routine like everybody else is, or doom scrolling or going down the rabbit hole or doing some sort of fear monger for yourself because we're programming ourselves because we're programmed at birth. Go to school, get a job, get married, retire, and basically die, live to exist, not live to enjoy, not live to thrive. And it's amazing when you just take a step back and don't do any of that. Mind you, people distance themselves from you because they think you're nuts or crazy for doing it. But, at the same time, I did a solo retreat by myself, away from technology, away from society, alone with my thoughts and a journal. And I wrote 60 pages in that journal. And it's like, wow, I never thought I could do that. And who would have thought it? So now I enjoy journaling. And it's like journaling is not only like motivating, it's just you get your thoughts out and then they're gone. Like if you're having a bad day or something, you just write it down and then it's gone. Or you take that bad day and you use it like, okay, what's going to be better now? What is going to happen to me now that's going to make this better?
It's really important, we are being distracted for a reason, right? Because if we can experience 3 shooting stars and all the other crazy stuff that you and I have both experienced, then that's a bit challenging for the powers that be that want to control the masses. And so magic is not allowed. And so the more distraction, the more we can be tuned into those little screens and the noise, then we don't get to think for ourselves and we don't recognize how powerful we are and that we have a voice and all of those things. And, it's all here for a reason because it's not out of sorts. It's actually part of the process of evolution of consciousness. It's we're having our own physical and spiritual experience as an individual, but then we've got this beautiful human collective that's going through the evolution of this process. And you look at, as above, so below, right? So the more we evolve ourselves and the more we wake up, you can see that pattern of moving out of the darkness and into the light. And so each one of us as a soul comes in to correct the things that are holding us back and limiting us from actually experiencing ourselves as magnificent, as magical, as the light, right? And so it wouldn't be much of a journey if we already knew that when we got here.
That's
We
right.
came, we came
Yeah.
down to go, well, I want to experience myself as a light. So let's go into the darkness and get all the shit up, like all the traumas so that I can experience myself and change those things and see myself as more than what my experience is that I'm having. And that's the thing. What happens is we forget that little bit and we get stuck in the darkness thinking that that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's all there is. This is all I deserve. This is what I'm worth, and I'm just going to stay here and scroll, doom scroll, and, stay in everybody else's energy because that's my life. And if I'm lucky, I'll have holidays, And so it's really that getting out of that and going, well, actually, every single choice that I make right now makes a difference in my life and the collective life. So what do I want to choose? Am I just going to disconnect for an hour in the morning and be in my own energy? Am I going to disconnect for an hour of a nighttime and be in my own energy? Just an hour, morning and night, to be in my own thoughts, my own feelings, to see what's underneath all this stuff. Why is this in my movie? What part of me is wanting to experience more light and just make a different choice than the one you did yesterday,
It's just that challenge, right, of just getting out of your head. And the biggest thing is we're all in our heads because I know myself, I have an overactive mind, so my mind never stops. But since starting to, like, I don't know, read books and stop watching TV and just stop watching movies and just start creating my own thing, it's quieted down the chatter. And even now when I exercise, if I want an extra rep, I'll just tell my arms I want an extra rep, or I just tell my legs, one more rep, we can do this. Because I
Yeah.
know my legs are alive, like I know my arms are alive. Everything's alive because everything is consciousness. It's
Mm.
even like money. They say money's the root to all evil. Money's not root to evil. Money's energy.
Yes.
We can
Yeah.
we can manipulate money. We can manipulate anything, but we're just so like brainwashed into
Mm.
thinking that we deserve less. But really
Mm.
less? What is less? What is
Mm.
lack? There's
Yeah,
only
absolutely.
abundance. Like, and the only reason we think we have lack is because we're taught we have lack. We're taught we have to follow these systems. We're taught we have to like this is a simulation, and that's what I've learned. And it was funny the other day when we were in public. My fiance, because she's spiritual too, she was like, "I'm starting to pick up on the glitches." Like we rang the bell one day, and some guy just totally like jumped, and we're like, "Whoa, that's never happened." And then you're looking at like in the grocery store and things start like changing colors, and like my phone's been glitching, like things are just glitching, and it's like, whoa, this is kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really cool because it's stepping into that next level of consciousness, right?
Right.
And I don't know how long have you been on a spiritual journey for?
Really, I've waken up since 2020, sorry, 2024.
Yeah, right.
I'm
Okay. So
just
you're,
brand new.
man, you're in, like, it's so cool when you first start waking up because that's when all, like all the magic happens because it's also new, right? Like now I have some crazy things happen and I'm so used to it that, I smile, but it's no biggie, like,
Yeah.
and so it's really cool. I've had those moments of, oh, I remember when it was exciting, but what I'm noticing, I've been 27 years, I think it's been now. I've seen the spiritual and, personal development world shift and change. And what I'm really seeing now is that it's happening faster because the veil has thinned.
Hmm.
And, I do a process called recoding, because one of the things that we come into this body as a soul and go, no, I've got these things that I want to personally correct, right? And to personally correct them, one of the things is we go, I'm going to choose that family with that DNA, all the things, so that I'm working on my own experience, but also I've got this collective that, for the whole, because that's, we're all working for the whole, right? And so when you come into the body, you've got this bloodline of trauma. Like, epigenetics shows us that we hold on to in our DNA the trauma of the past. So there is not one single person on this planet that hasn't had a grandparent or a great grandparent or someone in their life, in their lineage, that hasn't gone through a war, a famine, a regression, traumatic experience of heart loss, health crises, all of those things. And they get stuck in your DNA. So sometimes that noise in your head isn't just yours, it's past lives and it's generational history that is holding you back. So you could be going, why is this happening? Well, actually, it's because it happened to your great, great, great grandfather, and now it's in a level of consciousness where we have the ability to correct that and clear it. So, what recoding does is it goes to the source of where that origin happened from, that first event, and it's like flicking a switch where we shift that, almost like, a cancer cell being shut off. So we neutralize the trauma and the dysfunction, the beliefs, the emotions, all the limitations that go with that, so that you can now access more light in your body. And now you're bringing in more of your soul's destiny, more of your soul's path. You're being able to elevate in vibrational frequency, move through the dimensions at a faster pace. And so a lot of this heaviness, this tethered to the weight of the past, is starting to dissolve on a collective. So now the soul's journey is like, oh man, I'm, feeling a lot lighter. And so from a collective point of view, so many more people are waking up, right? And going, because it's in the field, there's more people in the field, and so more people are having this opportunity. I mean, our parents didn't have this opportunity because it wasn't part of the collective to work on yourself, right?
No.
Like, it just wasn't there. So we're in a beautiful place, even though there's chaos, even though there's some crazy times coming, stepping into that space of, I choose to live this way, and I'm the predominant creator in my life. Man, we've got some amazing stuff coming.
Yeah, I know. It's great because when you don't focus on the fear aspect and you focus more on the positive and the loving aspect, you don't see what everybody else is seeing. It's like you're on a different planet almost, because everyone else is so caught up in the fear and the government. And I don't know how many times I've heard about Trump or Trudeau, and it's never ending, and the wars and this and that, and the famine and disease that's going on. It's
Mm,
like I don't even pay attention to it anymore. It's like it's gone. And like I did a past life regression for my first time when I started my quantum healing hypnotherapy, and it turns out I was a German soldier. I was a
yeah.
Nazi, and I
Yeah.
incinerated people at Auschwitz.
Yeah. Wow.
So
How
I
did,
brought a lot of trauma from that
yeah.
life to this life. And that was why I had the upbringing I did. That was why I was bullied. That was why I was told I wasn't going to amount to anything.
Mm,
And it haunted me for my life, and it ruined so many relationships, and it made my jobs so chaotic, and I was angry all the time and I didn't know why. And it just started to make more sense. And then I just let it be that it's my superpower now. And my fiance is like, you were definitely in the military because you have militant mindset. You are so disciplined. It's scary. You were like this clean freak. You were like this organized amongst all the chaos. You're like organized. You're on point. It's like, yes, you were definitely a soldier. Like you took
Yeah.
that from
Yeah.
that to this life. So it's like, yes, I did all those bad things, but at the same time, it's given me a gift.
Yeah. And we associate it with bad because that's what we've been told to consider it as. But what if it was part of the plan? Because, if things like that hadn't happened, how would we know what we want to create instead, right? So how did you feel after that? How did you feel going through that transformation and clearing that?
That was a lot of weight like shifted because I had
Mm.
so much knots in my shoulders. Like I was just bound up, tense. And then I was born with a birthmark, and I never understood where the birthmark came. And someone told me it was a cyst, but it turns out I couldn't do what I was doing in Auschwitz anymore, and I took my life. I wrote my my wife and son a letter, and then I shot myself. And I still have the mark right here where I shot myself.
Yeah. Isn't it an amazing system that we're in? Like, I do think, what are the muggles doing? Because no wonder they've got a doom scroll, because it's really like a whole different world when we open up to the experience of more and more opportunities and more, past lives and multidimensional aspects. And, you know, and I say muggles, offhandedly, but we're all muggles in our own way, right? But
Totally.
it's the opportunity for all of us to wake up and to recognize that we are way more than this one life, this one body, this one trauma that we're going through. Like, we've got so much more to offer and so much more to experience. And when you can connect in, and go, ah, this experience, like that um birthmark, that's what it is, right? And having that weight off is such a beautiful experience, isn't it? Like letting go, and feeling this elevated consciousness and physical experience of pain leaving the body. It's a beautiful journey when you step in and wake up to the experience of being more light than just your identity.
It's like virtually the cure to life because we think we have all these diseases, but we create these diseases because we bottle up so much from our past lives or from this life. And that's the reason cancer exists. That's the reason diabetes exists. Like everything is just our reality creating it. But when you stop thinking about stuff like that, you no longer create it. It's
Mm,
gone. And it's
mm,
like you're rejuvenating your body. Like I'm gonna be 40 and I feel like I'm 20.
yeah,
Like it's like, wow. And it's
yeah.
like I could do things and my body and I are on the same page. And when you're on the same page with your body, it's everlasting. It's like rejuvenating. It's motivating. It's like it's not really work anymore. It's fun.
Mm,
Like getting
mm.
up every morning, and I do an exercise where I count leaves and I do it for an hour, and then I do my affirmation meditation, and then I'll work out for an hour, and then my fiance and I will go and walk for an hour. It's like that's awesome. And then I'll
Yeah,
jump and do a podcast.
yeah. And
So
meet
it's
some
like,
wild people, right?
yeah. But you can't do that when you're stuck working in a job. When you're
Mm.
stuck following protocol, when you're stuck following a system, and you're stuck listening to other people and people pleasing and not doing something for yourself.
Well, stuck in the mindset that you're disconnected, that you're separate, like that's the challenge, is that we we are conditioned, and it really is part of the system. I tell my clients that, this little story, right? We're a beautiful soul in this beautiful, consciousness where we can just manifest anything that we want, but we want to have the experience of doing that physical experience. And so we decide, okay, we're going to come down, we're going to be in this body. And so you come down, and regardless, how you get born, you're born into the world. And as soon as that umbilical cord is cut, now all of a sudden you experience the duality. Now you have to breathe air from outside of your body. Can you imagine air going into your lungs for the first time? Like, it must be horrific. You've got to have food outside of your system. You've got to have warmth. You've got to have love and protection. All of it's external to yourself all of a sudden. And so very quickly we start recognizing that we need to behave a certain way to get the things that we need. And so if we behave this way, we get what we need, and we're praised and validated and all the things. And if we behave this way, then we get, punished maybe, or neglected, or some sort of discomfort happens, and the body learns very quickly which one they've been. And it's different for each one of us, right? Like I say to my clients, the child that's born into a house full of thieves is the one that's ridiculed if he does not steal. So, our family rules our environment. And so you get caught up in this whole world of, this is the way our family behaves. This is our culture. This is the way you do things. This is, you're just a sponge for 0 to 3 at least, but up to 7. But 0 to 3, you're just taking in everything energetically with no filters, no rational way of, connecting, because the brain's in a hypnotic state, like it's brainwave frequency. And so you're just taking in, this is the way men and women behave together. This is the way you relate to money. This is the way you work or you don't work, or you play or you don't play, or, you eat, all of these things. This is the way my mouth works because I'm speaking English. All of the things that we learn that is now cemented into our unconscious, because our unconscious is all about patterns of behavior. It's robotic, right? It's like, I put my foot forward and I put another foot forward, and now I'm walking. And so I learn that, I get stuck in my head so that I don't have to think about walking when I'm 50, right? So you get into these patterns of behavior, not just with the way you eat, the way you sleep, the way you walk, all of those things, whether you smile or not, but also your beliefs, your emotions. All of those things get stuck in your system as well. And we get caught in, well, I'm not good enough to do that thing because I got smacked because I asked for another cookie, or because I wanted to be curious, or whatever. And so you get these patterns in your head that go, I'm not good enough, I'm not perfect, I'm not worthy, all of these things. And now that is your set point, your baseline, and you grow up, and this unconscious still thinks it's 0 years old or whatever, and you're 20, 30, 40, and you're wanting to move into creating your own business and stepping outside of the matrix and living a passionate life, fulfilling life. And you are going, this is what I want to create, this is what I want to change. But then on this side, you've got this unconscious that's going, no, remember, we're not good enough for that. Come and doom scroll again, so you don't have to think about going into something that you're not ready for, or you're not good enough for, or like, that's for other people. Like, don't do that because this might happen. Or remember when you were smacked as a kid. And you have all these silent instructions going on in your head. That's the work. It's not listening to that voice. It's listening to the voice that goes, actually, I want to change. I want to move out of that. I want to experience the magic that these guys are talking about and I've been listening to for a while. I want to experience it too. So listen to that voice and say, show me the way. Ask we've got our conscious that wants to change and our unconscious that doesn't want to change. So there's this dysfunction between the two. If you can recognize that actually we have another aspect of ourselves that, higher self, spirit, soul, I call it the superconscious, another part that actually doesn't care whether you change or not, as long as you're having an experience. If you can tap into that and say, show me the way, show me the signs, show me how to shift, show me how to be louder than that other voice so that I can move into really becoming and just incremental moments, incremental focus, constant laser focus on this is what I'm choosing. That's when you're going to start making a difference and you'll start having little things pop and little things shift and you'll start noticing your world changing and you get your 3 shooting stars, or I could tell you so many other stories that have happened to me. It's beautiful.
Well, this has been a wonderful interview, Elizabeth, and I'm so grateful to have met you, and I wish you nothing but continued success and limited possibilities and much love.
Absolutely, to you too. Looking forward to seeing your journey.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in this powerful conversation with Elizabeth Eleanor on Beyond Transcendence with Andrew. Her journey is a testament to transformative power of self-discovery, healing, and the choices we make to shape our own reality. Elizabeth's choice story reminds us all of the importance of embracing our unique paths and stepping away from societal constraints to live authentically. May her experiences inspire you to embark on your own journey of awakening and fulfillment. Until next time, continue evolving, healing, and living in alignment with your true self. Much love to you all. Bye.